right, today's listener question. This one's a bit of a, well, it's a tough one to tackle, but let's try it. Can you give me some advice on learning a new system, please? I've been a Glock slash any polyframe striker gun guy for quite a while. I shoot them very well, even to the point where I love the stock Glock trigger. I consistently stack rounds inside a 1-inch paster at 15 yards. I recently picked up a staccato and I'm having a very hard time understanding how to pull the trigger without disturbing the sights when just zeroing the dot. But I seem to shoot it pretty okay at speed. Dry firing every day hasn't helped much with the trigger press. Please help. This gun was too expensive to give up on this journey. Bro, those guns are not cheap. All right. Well, let's talk through it. First off, I got the old John McClane special here today. So, let's talk about a different trigger system. You get used to something. You shoot any gun enough, whether it's this one, an M&P 2011, whatever. You get to the point where you just pick up the gun and it feels like it's a part of your hand. Meaning the way your hands connect to the gun, the trigger weight, the recoil, the way the recoil spring when you rack it. You just get to the point where all of it just feels like it's meant to be. Or I'll feel like I could almost like you just like sleep with the gun under your pillow. Honestly, you just like magazines just go in the gun, rack it, press check, holster, draws, mag changes, all that stuff. With enough training, you get to the point where all that stuff just happens. It's you put in all the effort, and then you get to like whatever subconscious competence or however you want to verbalize it. So then the question is, then when you get a new gun, what do you do? And a little bit, you have to go back to the drawing board in some ways, but not all. For example, the grip. Yeah, I mean, I'm going to use this same like principle-based approach with any pistol I shoot. So firing hand holds the gun, support hand, I'm going to connect the gun in a way that the gun doesn't move, but each gun has its own little nuances, and some things are going to be easier than worse. Like the trigger, the sighting system, the grips, the amount it recoils, all this stuff is going to be a little bit of a learning curve. So, his issue specifically, having a hard time understanding how to pull the trigger, it's like, it could just be pulling the trigger, but I'm willing to bet it's a lot of other things too. For example, double stacked 2011 guns, got a thumb safety to deal with. The trigger is going to be much shorter, probably like a lot less take up than this. So you got this very little take up, lighter in pressure. The grips panels itself are going to be different from your Glock, so it's a staccato. So I like, assuming it's the poly plastic grip, I like those. It's got a little bit of texture, maybe even more texture than a Glock. So it's different in diameter. The texture of it's different. A different trigger system, a different safety. All the stuff is different. So the part I keyed on the most, though, is that he's having a hard time understanding how to pull the trigger while just zeroing the dot, but shooting it okay at speed. So it's like slow fire when you're just doing like press, 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 and at some point the gun goes off. Something there is happening. So it could be an amount of grip pressure issue, where it's like one hand's taking over, one hand's not doing enough. The gun doesn't fit, like the grip panels itself or the frame, where you can connect the gun in a way that it's not moving around or slipping. Maybe the trigger reaches too far, or it's a different spot. So for example, normally like on a Glock, your trigger would kind of rest on the first joint, or maybe like the fingerprint, but then with this, or the pad. But then with this gun, it's like you've got way more finger that goes through it, or you're not used to reaching the place that you can. Again, all these little variables are things that like don't add up, or just feels out of place and not what you're used to. So I think the most important part is like the cues and where you place your attention. So if the issue is happening specifically at slow fire group shooting speed, you should be painfully aware of every little input and things your hands, fingers do as you apply pressure. So like the process would be guns aimed on target. It's like, okay, target focus, the sights feel good. Got the right grip pressure. I didn't before. All right, yep, now it's the right grip pressure. Gently touch the face of the trigger. Stack pressure, like pressure, 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 pressure. At some point it goes off. So you see that slowly like pressing the trigger for a group shooting pace. It's like, what happens? Once I start to press the trigger, I feel my hand doing this, or I'm not like contacting the trigger in a way that feels normal or that I'm used to. The next thing you knew, I feel like I'm pushing the gun off course. The thumb safety, I don't like the way it makes my hand to be in a different spot, or whatever. It's all these little things that are just going to affect what you're used to, and there's some amount of input that he's doing that he doesn't like, or the gun doesn't feel friendly in his hands. So let's see. Understanding how to pull the trigger without disturbing the sights, even when just zeroing the dot. First thing to understand is the gun has, obviously, for your example, the gun has less pull, or the trigger has less pull. So with the Glock, normally where you'd have a lot more distance, now it's going to be, it's like it's starting at the point where you just have very little to move. So it could be something where you normally press, as you're pressing the trigger. I've seen where guys like to I'll do it double action. You kind of start where the gun's close, and as you roll through the pressure, you're still refining the sight picture around, kind of getting it to where you want it right before the hammer falls. That could be a little bit of difference, or maybe you want it to be perfect. You're trying to click it like a mouse, so you get the sight perfect, and you want to just press through it since it's a shorter, lighter pull. There's a lot of different things it could be. So for this issue specifically, it's interesting we're saying having the issue at slow fire, which means, as much as I hate it, I would actually do some slow fire, just thinking about the pressures in your firing hand, rolling through the pressures, because you've got to be able to grip your own pistol. That's a good place to start. So I would work on that and then progress to trigger control at speed. I think people that watch this channel be familiar, just in case you're not. Guns aimed at the target, hammers back, finger is just out of contact with the trigger to start with. On the beep, you're going to press the trigger immediately, but trying not to push the gun off course or have I hate pinky pressure, part of your hands clamp, or your thumb moves, or any amount of that now stuff that people do. You want to get rid of all that. Instead, it's just starting with your finger, the gun's cocked, pointing at the target, finger's just out of contact with the trigger, and pressing it immediately without having any amount of your thumb or your hand pushing on the gun. Doing that for a bit, like I said, starting with just out of contact. If you need to go to easy mode, you can start with your finger just touching the trigger, but not applying pressure. Then once you get better, move your finger farther and farther and farther away from the trigger. And at some point, I like doing this drill with your finger straight and alongside the frame or the trigger. For people that carry a gun for a living, this could actually be a very realistic start position. So it'd be starting like this, then pressing the trigger immediately without influencing the gun at all. So just marksmanship drills is the way to work on this. But I'd say likely, from this example of the Glock to the staccato is going to take a lot less input. And so I'm guessing with the Glock, you're used to pushing down the gun to return it more, used to a heavier trigger, especially the factory trigger pull, because that staccato is going to have probably half the trigger pull weight. Let's say a factory Glock's, 4 to 6, probably depending on the variables. And a staccato could be 2 to 4, depending on, how it was set up in the factory, or if it's been tuned, messed with the options, all that kind of stuff. So let's see. Anything else that I missed? I think that was it. So shoot it pretty okay at speed. Dry firing, just zeroing the dot. Yeah, so the other part to talk about is the expectations for the gun. Up front, you're looking to match it, but I'll just say it. I think the staccato has more capability, more horsepower than what the Glock does. So with some training, once you get up to it, you don't want to just try to have the same times that you have with the Glock. Instead, you should be trying to crush those times, because the gun's got a little lighter trigger, maybe it fits your hand a bit better or a bit worse. But for most people, 2011 or staccato style pistols will be able to shoot faster, more accurately, just through the trigger system and the way those guns are set up compared to a factory Glock with a factory trigger. So with some experience, you want to get to the point where you can shoot that gun harder and faster. So just be mindful of not trying to duplicate the same big picture. I realize right now you're trying to get up to speed, but big picture, you don't want to just match times. Because the gun has more horsepower, you're looking to do more. Just like if I was trying to shoot a 5.56, let's say I'm shooting at 15 yards, and I shoot a 5.56 and be happy with the groups for doubles that I can get with the pistol. It's well, no, the rifle has more horsepower. It's more capable, maybe a different muzzle device, sighting system, whatever. Like, you should be able to do more. Or if it's a 25 yards, the rifle will do way more. So I'm not saying it's that sharp of a difference, but the Staccato does have more horsepower. So with that in mind, I'd be looking to get more out of the gun and training a lot harder with that gun. But anyway, hope that answers the question. Like I said, if you're having this issue with slow fire, painfully thinking about all the little details and relates to slow fire marksmanship, then I do the trigger control at speed, the rapid trigger presses, and then just do some marksmanship stuff in dry training. With some training, it'll all come around, but it'll just be inputs from you and then making sure you have a good connection on the gun. It's not slipping around inside your hand. So, like I said, hopefully that answers the question. Appreciate you watching. Like, share, subscribe. If you have questions, though, drop it below, or follow-up questions for me. I'll either answer them in the comments or just make a follow-up video if I need to. So, thanks for watching. Have a good day.